Hi, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon everyone. I am Puan Molisa Mohtar from Sektor Pembelajaran GPM Pulau Pinang. So I would like to welcome you to our program Soar to Score SPM 2021, Day 1, and we're gonna have a writing slot for today. All right, now we are coming live from our YouTube channel.
Right. Hello, teachers. Good afternoon, and thank you, Pon Melissa. Today is indeed a wonderful afternoon because we're going to share a lot of things with all the teachers, and also we will get some ideas how to help our SPM students, the 2021 candidates. Okay. Without further ado, let me proceed. So today's content on my part will be best practices for part one, which is also known as short communicative message. And next, I will also share on best practices for part two, guided writing. So these best practices will be very handy and useful to help our student as the exam is approaching soon, roughly around 1.5 months. Okay, so it is not very difficult. I mean, all the practices that I'm going to share, they are very uh, easy to prepare, and students definitely will understand, especially the weaker ones. So we can help them to at least score or pass the fail border. Okay, the first best practice I would like to share is jigsaw writing. So I'm very sure you all have come across jigsaw reading during our formative assessment training in 2000, if I'm not mistaken, 13, if I'm not mistaken, 18, sorry, 2018. So it's similar. The thing is, definitely students need to read and they have to write. So this is the activity all about. So jigsaw writing method is actually a very helpful tool for teachers to use to help their students to take ownership in their learning process, especially in mastering the writing skill. So here, I'm very sure all of us are familiar with this. So each student is assigned a specific piece of information where students need to read and understand. After that, they will join the pieces of information to complete the essay in the group. But I'm aware that now group work is not allowed due to our SOP. So I would like to give an alternative how we can modify it. And it's all available online. And teachers, if you want to prepare on your own, also can. So here, what I would suggest is we can assign to students with pieces of information individually. We can prepare either in a handout form if you're having it in the classroom, or if you want to do it like an extra class online, you can actually use the pre-existing live worksheets online, or you can set your handout as a live worksheet. Okay, so those teachers who feel like I'm not sure how to actually make my handout into live worksheet, it's very easy. Just Google, you can actually get variety of videos on guiding you how to prepare live worksheet. Okay, next, here what students do is on the live worksheet, they have to drag the pieces of information and place them in orders to show the coherence. So what is the benefit here is weaker student will understand the flow of this either email or the part 2 essay, the point of view essay. So as they keep on doing this practice in repeat, what will happen is practice makes perfect, right? So they will understand how to write an email in a good flow, right? So roughly, at least they can get some score rather than they write without knowing the flow. Okay, definitely we have to drill the question too. So when you want to give this worksheet, the live worksheet, make sure you drill the question. Tell them what are the requirements they have to understand. So let me show you an example. So I call it drag and arrange. So this drag and arrange jigsaw writing helps in content flow practice. Okay, let me show you a worksheet online. Okay, this is the pre-existing live worksheet. Yeah? You see here, I'll try to see here. So what teachers can do is drill the question, show the question, drill what are the stimuli given, what are the tasks they have to actually fulfill, then they can get the content. Okay. After that, you can see the layout here. Great. All right. So this is the layout. So all these are draggable. You can actually drag the answers. Okay, so as you drag, you arrange them in this template. So if students can arrange them in a proper order, it means they are able to identify the flow. Okay, it's not about writing alone. It's also teaching students how the email flows. A nice email. There's no correct or wrong format here. So as long as it's coherent, they can get good marks. All right. So let me go back to the slide. All right. So I'll show in detail. So what it is, when you want to assign the student with the live worksheet, drill the question. So probably you can highlight some points for the weaker student. Whereas for these good ones, you can actually ask the students to highlight and tell to the others in the class what are the task requirements. So here we can see the question. Hi, Jose. Lately, I heard that you bought a new phone. How is it so far? So it is also a task here. I'm interested in knowing what criteria you look into before buying a phone. So there's another task here. And then will you be able to share some ideas on this? So some other ideas also you should share as a writer. So at least students know what are the criteria, not, what are the task requirements, all right? So this is how we guide our students. So for the good student, let them independently identify the task requirement. For the weaker students, we can actually guide them, or we can let them give what are the task requirement. But if they can't identify, we give our support by showing them where they actually can see. All right, so this is the one that just now it showed the draggable one answers. So if they are able to put them in a proper flow, it means they are good at it. They can identify the different structure, how to begin, how to elaborate the content, and how to end the email. So once they're done, after doing the practice and after the discussion of the answer, teachers can start to drill the same essay by showing some useful expressions in the task. So like here, there is a linker, firstly, or sentence connector, and there's another expression also. It's so nice to hear from you. So it shows some friendly intonation here, okay, friendly tone here, sorry, tone. And then from another link here, you can see from here. So rarely students use, but they will learn from this kind of practice. These are some simple sentence connectors where students can use to show the flow of the idea. And then there are more, such as to show example. No, this is for the weak students. They sometimes, not sometimes, they actually face problem in telling what are the example, what kind of words to show that they're going to actually write about the examples, right? So, and then and to show linking word, the conjunctions, and then next to show linking sentence connector, and then this is another expression which actually students can pay attention to show that next point about criteria based on the task here. To answer you on the criteria, there are a few things you may want to look into. So it sounds very personal. Can you see? It's like an email, short communicative message, which sounds so personal. Okay, and there are more. Um, Next is both to show. Rarely students use these kind of words. Both, right? Conjunctions. Huh? Okay, next. So you may want to look into which suit you most. So this is also sounds very personal. Okay, rather than always straightforward. Of course, it's a straightforward idea, but the language has the element of being informal. Right? So this is very suitable for weaker students. And there is also some expression here, an expression, sorry. Most phones cost an arms and a leg, rather than most phones are very pricey. Okay, so all these will help them to get some marks. So definitely they can score at borderline, they can pass the fail border. Right? So they are more like moderate price range. So once they are done with the practice, don't just stop there. Drill whatever expressions which you find may help the students, the weaker ones especially. Yeah. All right. So once they have done with the mic dragging, just show the students how the uh, content is flowing from the beginning until the content paragraphs and also the concluding paragraph. So roughly the students can understand because everyone believe pictures shows thousand words. Rather than always we give them a lecture kind of lesson, always tell them about the introduction, content paragraph, and then concluding paragraph. They just merely listening. They can't actually picture it. Let them try and you explain, it works better. All right. So let us go another kind of jigsaw writing. This is to show them how to sequence the ideas coherently. Okay, this is the screenshot of this live worksheet. This one, they don't have to drag, but number it. But of course, both looks the same. But we just want them to have some variety. Weaker students, when you always give the same kind of practice, definitely they will feel bored. They get distracted very fast. Maybe the good one, you won't have problem. They are very obedient. Whatever you give, they will do. But let's help the weaker one to fail to pass border. All right. So as they sequence, then again, you can actually drill on the nice, useful expressions. So as I already highlighted here or underlined here, you can see some nice, interesting phrases which actually can bring up their marks in any sub skills like content, language, it can help them. All right, so next jigsaw writing method is recognizing the email layout. So, with the weak students, they don't really know how does email look like, although they write emails, okay, because they're dealing with all these gadgets. Definitely, they write emails, but they don't really like paying attention to the layout. So, this is uh, another worksheet on another live worksheet. Okay, I'll show you the screenshot. Okay, here if you see, the content is given, the whole email is given, but they have to identify what are the labels. I mean, labels according to the layout. So you have to label the layout. So again, they have to drag it. So rather than every time write, students may feel, it's boring to write. I'm talking about those below average students, right? So this is another interactive practice online which the teachers, can use to help this group of students. All right. So let us go further. Give me a moment. My slide is hang somewhere. Too tired, I guess. Let it uh, get back into the line. Okay, give me a moment, teacher, sir. I think some technical problem here. All right, so it's okay now. Maybe afternoon makes the system tired. Okay, so I know teachers are tired, the system is tired, so don't worry, we'll to go on. So another jigsaw writing. I'll call it write on your own. Okay, it's a write on own. All right. So here, this one is very suitable for the advanced students. It's mean the good students can write independently on their own. So don't force the below average students to try this one. They will definitely do nothing. All right. So let me show you. This is how it looked like. The question will be there on the live worksheet. So I don't actually screenshot the question. I only come up with a template. So this means this good advanced student, they already know what are the sentence structures where they can write as greeting, and then what are the response, and then the content based on the task requirement. So this particular worksheet is very suitable for those students who are good in language. They can write flawless essay. Don't have that limit, or they hesitate to write. Or this kind of student, let them write, and don't control them in terms of, okay, you have some limitation, you cannot write more than this word. Okay, because Lembaga has not emphasized on the length of the answer. So let them freely write, don't control them, but remind them, don't write unnecessary details which may cause irrelevancy to happen. They write out of the top. So remind them, they should know, they should write according to the task requirement. All right. So next best practice, which I prefer to recommend, this one is quite good, but before using this template writing, you got to drill a lot of useful expressions. Okay, let me show you. So this template writing, I name it as write with guided structures and words. All right. So here we guide them. So probably for this average, the middle group, and below average also, they also can use. So give them this template. Say they should start with the introductory paragraph, which consists of greeting and opening sentence. Then followed by body paragraph. So here there is no limitation, one paragraph or two paragraphs or three paragraphs, because here I'm referring to part one essay. So if they feel that they have a lot to write at the content part, then let them decide to break into probably two paragraphs of content. If they feel like they can put all in one, let them proceed with that too. As long as they are able to use some linking words to show the idea organized. And then, of course, control on their errors like tenses, spelling, and punctuation. And they're able to give details and elaboration based on the stimuli given in the question. So commonly what we see based on the sample given by LP, we see they have provided with three stimuli. All right, so each stimulus gives some elaboration. Guide them. Simple elaboration will do. Don't need to use bombastic words or what if they are average group. Don't force them that they must write this kind of expression to get certain score. It doesn't work like that. Let them feel comfortable to write. All right? And then concluding paragraph. So consists of closing sentence like I hope my suggestion helps you. So it sounds personal. And also sender's name, who's writing the email. All right. So other useful expressions for opening when you want to write the introduction. Yeah? So these are a few samples. How are you? It's been ages not hearing from you. Sorry, I haven't written for so long. I was busy preparing for science project. It was great to hear from you again. It's taken me ages to reply. How's things going on? I hope everything's all right. So you look at these expressions, different structures. Let the student choose whatever expression which they feel it's close to them. They feel comfortable. So they have choices to write. It's mean you give all these structures. From that structures, the samples, they come out with an email using the template which I showed earlier. So it means they already have some structures, although they are not sure how to write on their own. When you provide them with a structure, they will be confident. But don't let them try like once, and then you say no, you're not still not good at it. Let them keep on trying. It's do like a marathon practice, Let them keep on write. I think after like 5-6 times, some structures will remain in their memory. Okay, so provide the platform for them to try, to explore. Okay, but for good students, probably you don't control them by giving this structure. Let them write independently. Because when you control this, they may have the like some warning, They feel okay, teachers say cannot write other things, must follow only this. So they have the tendency to control the writing, their talent in writing. Okay. So these are expressions to give details and elaboration. So if when students want to give details, you're the first stimulus, second stimulus, third stimulus, they can use this kind of expression to start. Like to start with, the best way to reduce weight is if the topic is about losing weight. Okay, or the topic is about the ways to improve English. To start with, students can practice online writing to improve English writing skill. Example. So this kind of expression, when you provide them, it helps them to give details and elaboration. If not, they will be too direct. You can, you must. It's still a beginning, but we want to help them this last minute to score a little extra. Okay, they've been writing you must, you should. It's quite common. It's right, but we are now in the process of helping students to get some extra marks, maybe from E to D and then C to B plus. It helps. So these are a few example of expressions. Okay, there are more useful expression like different functions, various functions. Like if the task requires the students to write to suggest or to recommend. So these are a few. Okay, I would suggest, I recommend that, I believe it's a good idea too. Okay, so provide these examples and then to give opinion. So these are the ways to give opinion. I believe that, I feel that, in my opinion. Okay, next to advice. So advice, you should try practicing writing daily. So it's an advice. I believe you need some extra writing practice. Or you have to write every day to improve. It would be good if you start writing daily. You see the same idea, they can use various kind of structure. If not, it will be like it's kind of monotonous. You should, you must, you can. It's correct, but now we're going to push them up a bit. And then to justify, to give reason. This is due to. Rarely student use. When you say due to, the weak student or below average students, they'll feel like due to sounds strange. No, they never practice using such structures. Okay, so let's help these kids, right? And then the reason is it's a good idea because, and this is because. Okay, now we are coming to the concluding paragraph. It's been for this template writing, writing template, you got to do a lot of drilling part by part. Then only you let the students write. Okay, so here you want to end your email. You wish first before you end. Have fun, all the best, enjoy your trip, depending on your content. And then closing line. Ask them to choose one will do, not writing two. Don't let the students have this idea, oh, if I write two, I'll get extra marks. Okay? So tell them, as long as you write something, you get some marks. Okay? And then signing off. Okay? So they already know how to stop and, sorry, not stop, end an email. They know the proper language to use. All right? So the common one is by. Very simple and short. Okay, let us see how to put all this drilled structure into question. So before that, you got to drill the question with the students. Let them know what are the task requirements. So if you see here, you received an email from your cousin, Hakim, who has just moved to your hometown. Hi, our school holidays is going to start next week. Let's go for a picnic with all our cousins. Where do you think we should go? First stimuli. Stimulus. What can we do then? Second stimulus. What should we bring? Third stimulus. I hope to hear from you soon. So bye. Now write an email to your cousin in about 80 words. Write your answer below. Okay? So of course you can ask them to write in the book. All right. So now you drill the question. It's from your cousin, Hakim. And then school holiday, picnic. You're going with your cousins, picnic with your cousin. The first stimulus, second stimulus, third stimulus. And then you do some drilling, whatever structure you already shared, ask them for content one, which structure they should use. Content two, the stimulus two, which structure can be used there, and followed by the third one. Different students may give different structure because all can be used. Any of the structure can be used. So these below average students won't feel like, oh, I'm weak. I only know one structure. They have variety to think for before they write. Okay. So let us go. So once you already drill the structure, they verbally answer you in the class. Give them the task now. Ask them to write the first introductory paragraph. Don't push them to straight away write all the paragraphs. Introductory first. And then randomly call. You should know who are the below average students, but motivate them. Let them speak. Read the answer. Read the paragraph. And then followed by body paragraph. So again, I would like to stress, don't restrict them to write one paragraph. Tell them you organize. If you feel like you want to put the two stimuli in one and then the third stimulus in another paragraph, they can. But remember, when they answer the stimuli or stimulus, each stimulus, they have to give elaboration. That will actually help extra marks. And for the elaboration, tell the student to simplest idea like it is the best, it is helpful. When you read storybook, it helps you to improve in English. Basic ideas. and of course concluding. All right, so let them feel they are not forced to do the writing. I know many students feel forced and they refuse to answer, leave it blank. So we are trying to avoid that now. Okay, let them write a little. Okay, let me go to guided writing part two. So here, as you all know, try to tell them, recommend them, the students, 20 to 25 minutes because you need extra minutes for the part three essay. So the range of the word is 125 to 150. You should not exceed the not should not, sorry, try not to exceed the word limit or time that you set. Okay, the reason I say don't exceed, if can, because I personally worry because I have my own students, they tend to write other than the stimuli asked in the task, I mean in the question. So it may lead to irrelevancy of idea. So in Malay, we call it keluar tajuk. Okay, so try to avoid such situation. Tell the students the scenario, why you shouldn't do that. They actually can write more than the limited word, but try not to give extra content out of the question task required. It should be within the task required. And then here, part two, it's more of giving opinion questions. So when you give opinion, you got to describe, you got to narrate some kind of event or story to explain, or you have to deliver some argument to give your opinion. And then you also must give fact. So when I say fact, it's not necessarily to be scientific or historical, some statistical fact. It can be from what they know, general fact. Okay, for a 17 years old student, they should know some fact, right? You know some fact. So this particular group of students, 17 years old. So let them write the fact that they know, but teachers guide them. Don't say it's a fact, but in real it's actually a factual error. Okay, so you have to guide that. Factual error definitely you have to avoid. Try not to talk or explain something out of the topic mentioned in the question. Okay, now for part two, you got to have a good introduction. Similarly for part three, okay, so I'll focus on part two. So part two paragraph, you must have the best, I'll say like the best, because it attracts the reader. You must have hook question and thesis statement. Okay, this one is already guided by your class teacher, the Form 5 class teachers, because they use textbook. Okay, so later you can see what are the pages. All right, so let us see. What is the first paragraph? This is not for the email question, part two question. So the first paragraph is actually the first thing your reader sees. I mean the students' paper markers. So it needs to be catchy and holds the attention. Like you hold the teacher's face. Teacher, please read this script. Okay, so it should give such effect. Okay, here what should an introduction have? It should have hook. Hook question means like, you want to catch fish, hook, right? So that hook question. And then background information, thesis statement. Okay, I know teachers might wonder, oh, if you say thesis statement, students may have the stress. Tell them, describe the problem, describe the topic, describe the issue. So I just put it here as thesis statement is actually the issue, the topic of the question. All right, so let's see how to write hook question. So hook question actually draw the attention of the readers and make them want to keep reading. It's mean the interest is aroused to read. So here what students should do, they must include, or not must, they can. It's suggested, it's recommended to include quotations, or you can come up with a question. Okay, when you say question, it's not a comprehension question, but rhetorical question. It means the question should let the reader to think, okay, to think logically. Oh, this is happening, there is a problem, there is an issue. Okay, you can talk about fact, general fact. If you know statistic, then you put. If you do not know statistic, then students are not advised to put statistic, but I just put here as some suggestion. Probably the good students can do that. Okay, and then tell or remind your students not to begin your part two essay with this essay is about, this essay will be about, I will write an essay about, the article is about. So this doesn't look mature, for A students, A grade students, this is not a good introduction. Okay, so we can also guide the weaker ones. Similarly, then background information. Once they write the hook question, they must write the second sentence or third sentence, the background information. So let's see what is background information. Give a little information about your article topic. If using hook question, then write the answer for the hook question, which can be the background information. This means you give the hook question, ask the student to write the answer for the hook question, but not in a sense comprehension question answer, but it sounds like a statement. Okay, so here give general main points based on the article topic. Oh, sorry, not the article, the essay topic. It means you give the gist, and then why is the topic is important. Okay, that is the background information. Here, don't reveal the content point, the stimuli, in the question. Don't reveal anything. Just the outer look of the question only. And then don't begin like, I'm going to write about. Okay, doesn't look mature in the sense of language. All right, next is the issue. So ask the student to write one issue sentence. So this issue sentence is actually tells the reader the main topic of the article. So the thesis statement is actually the backbone of the essay. Okay, example, I put the article. So it's actually the point of view essay. Yeah? Okay, here, be clear and be specific. Okay, and then it shouldn't go going around the bush, too lengthy, and then a lot of commas. Sometimes students tend to write this sentence with lots of comma. It happens. Students from these Chinese schools, they have this problem. Probably it is influenced by their Mandarin language, because Mandarin, when they write, I was told they use a lot of commas. So probably it influenced that. So remind them, be clear and specific, and then put at the end of the introduction, this statement, the issue sentence, and then be original based on the question. Here, never write the thesis statement or issue sentence in the middle of the introductory paragraph, and then don't give vague idea, not clear. Tell them if the sentence when they write, they themselves can't understand, they don't write that particular sentence. And then don't begin the statement, thesis statement or issue sentence, the point of the article. Okay, actually it means that word article is supposed to be the point of the essay. Many students tend to write that way. Advise them, encourage them to avoid that. Okay, so this will be the question, sample question. So basically it's about ideal job, and then here are the stimuli. What job would it be? They're asking this candidate to write what job they would choose, and then where would you work? It's mean where would the candidate work, and then what would you do then? Okay, so here basically they got to write the point of view based on these three stimuli. Okay, let us see how to write. Just now I was talking about introduction, right? Introduction paragraph, introductory paragraph. So hook question, you look at the sample that I give here, I share here. Do people around the globe choose the job they like or the job they are offered? So if you see, we are actually giving the question as the rhetorical question. Anyone who reads it, they think. And then are people happy to do the job they use? So all these are based on the question. It's not out of the question. From the task given, ask the students to create. So what you can do, today's lesson only hook question. Give variety of question, maybe 2 or 3 questions. Ask the students to come up with as many rhetorical questions as they can. So those are the hook question. And then from the hook question, you got to write the answer, the background information. So here the first question is, do people around the globe choose the job that they like or the job they are offered? So the answer for that. Nowadays, global citizens prefer to take the jobs that they like rather than the job they are offered. So you're giving in a form of statement. And then are people happy to do the job they choose? With that, many people are satisfied to take the job they like out of passion. So you're answering the question, but not as a comprehension question, but as a statement. And then end it with a issue statement. So the issue is the question asking which job you want to take. So it's you, personal, right? The point of view. So it comes. Sorry. If I were to take a job, I would prefer to be a professional badminton player, just like Dato' Lim Chong Wei, Malaysia's badminton icon. So you're coming into the personal point of view already. All right. So after that, you have to drill on the content. So writing template, you can use drill on the content, give them sample structures, and ask them to write content by content. All right. So let me show another practice for part two, where read the question like this. So here it's actually about you want to buy a special gift for your grandfather. So let's look at the stimuli first. What would you like to buy? The reason for your choice, reasons, the importance of giving a gift. So these are the three stimuli. Okay, what they can do, practice, ask them to come up with a hook question. And then ask them from the base of the hook question, write the statement. And then from the statement, write a problem, the issue based on the question. So it's actually, if they are doing it for the first time, definitely there's a lot of problem. So if can, you can restrict, the length of the sentence for the below average student. Don't force them, not restrict, encourage them. Don't write too long sentences. They may find it very stress and difficult. If I were an average student, I will say, no, I'm not going to do this. Okay? So tell them, do simple sentences. Make simple sentences. But still, they have the hook question. They can answer the hook question in a statement form and also the issue. They can even write one sentence for these all three when they join them. It's a beautiful introduction. Okay, after that, together in the class, don't let them do it independently unless they are the advanced good students. So the below average students or the average students, let's drill it in the class. Each of them, ask them to write. Let them shout out in the class because we have SOPs to follow. Then the teacher actually put the points detailed on the board. Let them see. After that, only ask them to write based on what they see. Always have a template. Then before you start, ask them to start to write. Let's drill the structures. Okay. So these are the template form. Okay. Here for the summary, students also having problem how to write conclusion. So what you can tell them is this is one of the method. Also, you can see in chapter 6, if I'm not mistaken, textbook. Okay, chapter 6. They actually guide how to write a conclusion by summarizing the content part. You know the three stimuli. Each stimuli, there are around three. Crack them into one sentence. That is the summary. So definitely they will find it very difficult, but teachers probably can go through that particular chapter, guide them how to write the summary based on the content. It's there. Okay, so this is one of the example based on the content. It is summarized. Okay, and then the future hope. You must give a hope sentence, but tell student for the part 2 essay, you shouldn't start I hope. That is for the email question. So you look at this question. It would be good if, okay, there's an if word, you see, if all human practices this simple gesture to show our concern to people we love and care. So it's actually a hope sentence, but you don't start it with I hope. And then you also can end it with a proverb if they know. So if can, try to get some common proverbs drill in the class. All right. So teachers, I just want to show you the last part. This will be the last part for my section. A worksheet, a live worksheet for part 2. This is writing practice. Take some time. It's downloading. Okay, it's already there. Okay, teachers, if you see, it's quite small, maybe too wordy. That's why I say if it is for weaker students, drill first. So these are the drag concept life worksheet. So they got to rearrange the structure here. So it's also getting exposed to the different structures, content, how the content is developed. So this is how you do. Always first time give the question, ask them to write. That is actually very difficult for them. Okay, so let's guide and help them. I know it's about 1 month, 1.5 months. We can actually do a lot for them. Okay, so together let's help our SPM candidates. Okay, thank you, teachers. I come to the end of my part, so will be continued by my colleague Nawal. So meanwhile, let's take 5 minutes break. To have some hot drinks or what, okay? Relax yourself and we'll start with part 3. Thank you, teachers. Bye. See you all.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we will proceed with our slot 2. So I would like to invite Puan Karen from Negeri to proceed. Okay, Karen.
Okay, hi, I'm Sharon. Okay, I will be doing writing on part 3. Okay, what earlier Premani did was writing part 1 and part 2. Now I'm going to recall back what we know about part 3 and how to help our students, right? Okay, the first thing that we must remember is the assessment scales. Okay, writing part 3. Before I start, can you hear? Do you have any problems? Is it clear? Audio is clear? All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, for the assessment scales, it still covers the four scales: language, content, organization, and communicative achievement. For all these four skills, later Puan Jane will be talking to you about it and how we can help our students to score. So I'm just going to have a touch and go, just telling you that these four skills will be accessed for the assessment in part 3. Okay, now part 3, which is also known as the extended writing. Okay, why is it extended writing? The first thing is in this part, the composition is based on 3 choices. That means our students have a choice on what to write on, what they want to choose and write. Okay, they have 3 choices, 3 questions given to them, and they are able to choose what they feel like, which one is their most, you could say, what they can write on, or what is their strong point that they would want to choose or write on. Okay, again, content, CA, organization, and language is there. These are the 4 skills that or scales that they will be judged on. How long is this extended writing? It's about 200 to 250 words. The good ones will write beyond that. The weaker ones may write less than that, but please encourage them. Doesn't matter how long or length of the essay is, right? What we are trying to do here is to make sure the weaker ones do get certain points and the good ones score in this part. Always remember that part 1 and part 2 earlier was also based on B1 and B2 scales, but this extended writing, the expectations for the students is higher because this is a C1 scale. Students will be marked based on a C1 scale. So they write better, they score better. Not necessarily the weaker ones will get a 0 because there is content, there is CA, there is organization, there is language. Our students, the weaker ones can still or are able to score. Okay. Now, this is a suggestion, right? The whole paper is 1.5 hours, 3 writing papers, 3 essays, but what we suggest is for the good ones, tell them to have about 50 minutes of suggestion for them to have on this part. Why? Because this is the deciding factor for an A or an A plus. Because here is where it's going to be very difficult for students to score. Okay, for the good ones, and we want them to score. So we want them, normally the good ones, they will be able to write the first, the email, what Puan Premani said just now, the first part, within 15-20 minutes, they will be able to finish that part. And then when it comes to the second part, another about 30 minutes or 25 minutes, and then keep the bulk of their time, about 50 minutes for this. This is a suggestion so that the good ones can really write 200, 250 words and they can really go into this extended writing and score for this. For the weaker ones, okay, for the weaker ones, do not tell them to finish or keep a bulk of time for this or don't keep extra time for this. Tell them so that they will be able to keep the same timing for all the 3 essays. They can, in fact, keep more time for the first part and the second part because the expectations for the first part and second part to score is much easier. But when it comes to the third part, if they're using the same language, same style, same organization, they will not be able to score very highly in this part. So what they do is they make sure that the first part and second part they concentrate more, but do not leave this part out. Make sure that you also write, but they will be you will expect lesser marks in this part. Okay, what kind of language is expected? Okay, here is mostly formal language, except when there's a story or narrative, then you will realize that they can use informal language. Okay, what is required or what kind of format is we expect in this writing? Okay, you can expect an article, report, review, or story. Okay, but not necessarily. All right, not necessarily, because it can go beyond that. These are the four spotted or the four very much talked about formal. What do you say? A minute, okay. This is something, the four that we are actually targeting at. Okay, article, report, review, and story. Okay, where did we get this idea from? If I look back at your DSKP, I'm linking it back to your DSKP, then you realize in the DSKP, in the SPM, look at part 3, the extended writing. In the task format, what I've circled there, task may include. That means task may include an article, review, or a report, or a story. That means these are only samples. It can go beyond that. Okay, so do not just concentrate on these four and say, oh, we were told these four will come out, and suddenly if something else comes out, and then we panic and we say, oh, we didn't teach our children. Okay, now link back the same thing. This is DSKP. Now I'm linking it back to your textbook. Emphasis has been given by Lembaga, article, report, review, and story. But look at the ones in red. That is all the textbook formal, what they have taught, the formats in Form 5. You will be able to get them on page 180 or 186 in your Form 5 textbook. Those are different formats that they have taught. Then refer back to your Form 4. There you will realize there were also different types of format. You will realize that letter to the editor, there's something not in Form 5, but it was already taught in the or covered in the Form 4 textbook. So make sure you have touched on all these formats, right? Although what is written there in yellow or gold there, that is what we are expecting. But make sure all these informal, formal, report, article, review. Review can be a book review, can be a movie review, right? All these are covered. Okay, I think in Form 5 it's a book review, but in Form 4 it's a movie review, something like that. You will see it's more or less it's the same thing, but you will realize, like even in Form 4, the formal letter and informal letter, you will see they are shorter. But when they go up in textbook in Form 5, you realize the length of the letter that they teach the students is slightly longer. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, what are things that we can help? This is the last minute push. Okay, there are only a few things that we can help at this last minute, right? Okay, one of the things that we can help out is polish on certain things. Okay, this is on part 3. Okay, polish them on the adjectives, polish them on phrasal verbs, idioms, proverbs, interesting expressions, sentence connectors, logical connectors, good and interesting vocabulary. These are things, the last minute push that we can give them. Also encourage smart copying, right? We have something like that most of our students, when they start writing, they feel that, oh, I must come up with an idea. I must come up. This must be my sentences. You do not necessarily tell them smart copying, meaning whatever you have read, whatever you're surfing the internet on, whatever you got some interesting statements, interesting idioms, or interesting proverbs where you have picked up, use them back. Okay, nobody is going to bring down their marks because, oh, these are sentences, not the student's sentence. These are not your sentence. These are sentences spoken by somebody else or taken from something else. So I'm going to bring down your marks on this. So it doesn't happen like that. So teach them this last minute. You have read an interesting story. Pick up the storyline. No one is going to know where you picked it up from. You're going to describe something. If you feel like describing a story or describing a place, you have read somewhere, you have watched it on movies. Our students love to watch YouTubes. Tell them where they have watched. Bring back all that. Link it with their surroundings. Okay. What else can we help the students at last minute? Look at these words here. These are some of the words you can give out to your students. For the good ones, they not necessarily they need this help. Okay, they may come up with this kind of words and they are used to this kind of words. Maybe for the weaker ones, for the above average, you can have different types of sets of words that you can give out to them. Okay, for the weaker ones, maybe you can give out very simpler addition, first, second, finally. For the good ones, you tell them, come up with your own one. You can't, and if they need all this help, please refer back to your textbooks. It's all there in the last pages of your textbooks, your Form 4 textbooks, your Form 5 textbooks. So these are something that we don't have to come up with because they are already given to us. Okay, it's already all there. All we have to do is use them. Okay, these are other sets of words that the students can use. Okay, if we refer extended writing part 3 here, students are expected to write with good vocabulary. Okay, later Jane will explain that's where they score their language marks. But if a student is writing good language or can use this language from part 1, part 2, part 3, let them continue. Don't tell them, oh, part 1, you don't have to use this kind of words. Part 3, you use this kind of words. We are not trying to differentiate them. Of course, for the weaker ones, encourage them. If they feel they can use certain words, encourage them to write throughout all the 3 essays. Okay, for the good ones, tell them that you are expected good vocabulary, or you need to use vocabulary that are linked to the topics. Okay, and the genre that is linked, that are good, so they know what to do. Okay, even this one, what you're seeing right now, the result, the summary, all these words, please refer back to your Form 4, Form 5 syllabus, not DSKP, your syllabus. All these words are there. You just have to photostat and give it out to your kids. It's in the syllabus, Form 4 and Form 5. So those are the words that what you see in your syllabus is the words they are expecting the students to write when it comes to the writing. Not only in the writing, in your listening, in your speaking, in your reading, paper, all these words are linked. These are the words that students need to know when they are trying to answer questions. Okay, it is in the syllabus. The Form 4 syllabus, there's a list of vocabulary. In the Form 5 syllabus, there's a list of vocabulary. You don't need a lot of time. All you have to do, I think it's only 1 or 2 pages. You just print it out, give it out to the student, have a 30-minute lesson with the students, go through with them, and this will help them. So they will be able to use in their speaking and listening as well. Okay, now what I'm going to go through is I'm going to give you samples of what kind of questions can come out. Okay, I just picked out these questions from the internet. All right. Okay. Now, for example, in part 3, you may have a question on an article. Okay, you attended a youth leadership camp, and then you will see there are bullet points there. What are the activities you did? What are the benefits you're going to gain from the camp? And what are the suggestions? What I've done here is I've come up with a very simple template. Very easy. You can give it out to your students now. Okay, this is how the template looks. Okay, it is a 5-paragraph template. You start off with introduction, content 1, 2, 3, and conclusion. Most of the time what we get is our students will come and say, teacher, when I got the question, I went blank. I just went blank. I didn't know what to write. I didn't know what to go on, or I didn't know what to elaborate on. So you link back this template with the question. For example, this is an article. You attended a youth leadership camp organized by your school. So when they go into the introduction, tell them, use the topic, write statements on the topic, or write something they know about youth. Go back here. All right, the youth leadership camp, or write something about a camping. What is youth leadership camp? So it is a general introduction. Then look at the bullet point, the first bullet point. What were the activities conducted during the camp? Use this sentence, put it back into content 1. That is your first paragraph. So your content 1 will be on the activities conducted during the camp. So students answer this question. So this will be your paragraph 1. What are the benefits you have gained from the camp? This will be your paragraph 2. What are your suggestions to improve the camp? This is your paragraph 3. Okay, this template, so you see there, I have content 1, that means the bullet point 1 comes there with elaboration, bullet point 2 comes there with elaboration, bullet point 3 comes there with elaboration. And conclusion, tell them to come up with a few words, either what they hope for the future or what they think or their opinion, or if they are able to link some 1 or 2 idiom or proverb with it, they can do so. Okay, for the good students, you will realize this same template can be used. Why? Because when they have the content there, elaboration and the language that they use, okay, and the statements that they make, will be able to give them higher marks. For the weaker ones or for the above average, okay, tell them to write simple sentences. For example, content 1. What are the activities conducted during the camp? They said, oh, during the camp I had, tell them to answer the question. And then I had swimming, I had campfire. Then they write one or two statements or 1 or 2 sentences on the campfire, meaning during the campfire we sang songs, we enjoyed the campfire, it was until late at night. So you realize they are using very simple language, they're using very simple vocabulary, but they will be able to score a 2 or 3. Okay, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to make sure that our students do not get a 0. We are trying to push them. It's not necessary the weaker ones mean I'm looking at the failures to go past. I'm looking at every child here with having this template. I'm looking at every child here to be pushed up to 1 grade better. A C to a C plus, a B to a B plus, an A to an A plus. Okay? This simple template will normally help out a lot of kids, because normally our kids will come back and say, teacher, I knew what to write, but at that time I didn't know how to organize. So having this template, you get marks for organizing, you get marks for language because you're already using simple language or you're using the language or vocabulary that is needed. Right? So it is actually a win-win situation. Weaker students can score, not score, the weaker students can get marks, the good students can score. Okay, what I'm going to show you in the next one, earlier was an article, now we look at a report. Similarly, Rimba Creation Center has opened in your housing area, write a report. Now you see you have 4 bullet points here. You can tell your children to either combine the bullet points or they can even write 4 paragraphs if they want. But if you look here, it's better to combine. Again, I'm using the same template. The usage of the same template is there. Write the introduction, use the bullet, what are the opening hours, what are the facilities offered, write on it, elaborate on it. Second point, go to the second bullet point. Content 3, go to the third bullet point and give up a summary or come up with a summary or conclusion for the end. So the best part about this is you don't have at this last minute for us to come up with, we want to come up with a variety of templates and you tell us, okay, if article come out, this is what you do. If report comes out, this is what you do. Don't confuse our kids anymore. Give them the simplest, the fastest and the easiest way, because this is the last push. You only have about 3 or 4 weeks, I think, because the Amali science will come in, the listening will come in, the speaking will come in. So what we want to know is help the students, yet make it easier for them, right? So you realize that just now article, then I used the report, and now I'm going to use best reviews. This can be used for a movie, news. What is this? This is a notice in your newsletter. Write a review, a shopper's review. Okay, a shopper's review. If you see in the Form 4 and Form 5 textbooks, you will realize the reviews that were given were mostly on movie and also books. But if you look at here, suddenly it's become a shopper's review. What do the shoppers think after buying it? Okay, but it's also linked. Again, what are the topics that we are supposed, okay, it's also linked with the students, because the word shopper here, the word shopper in Form 4, you had shopping in Form 4, in malls, and if you remember the Form 5 textbook, it has shopping online. So you realize the topics whatever the questions that come out are all related back. Again, I'm always taking you back to the topics. Why in Form 4 and Form 5? Because that is why what our students love to ask us. Cikgu, what is the question? What they can ask now? What is the topic? So link them back to the textbooks. Link them. Those are the topics. Those are the vocabulary. Those are what is expected of you, even in listening and speaking. Speaking is another 2 or 3 weeks' time. Students will come and say, teacher, what are they going to ask us? What are the topics? Refer back. Those are the topics there. And if you examine or you check on your Form 4 and your Form 5 textbooks, you will realize the topics are actually overlapping. Right? You look at Form 4, it's sports. But when you look at Form 5, it's extreme sports. Okay, what's the difference? Form 4, it's still in their comfort zone for our weaker students to be able to write. And the words, the vocabulary in Form 4 is much easier. But when it goes to Form 5, it's extreme sports. So the vocabulary goes beyond their comfort zone. So that's where the C1 comes in. But in Form 4, in Form 4, it's around their comfort zone. So the vocabulary used is things around them. So that's where B2 level comes in. But you want a better student, when they do Form 5, you'll realize they're leaving their comfort zone. That's a C1 level. So during the exams, the student's level is actually a B2. They'll be tested on a B2 level. But there will be words for them to be able, like I told you, this extended writing is for a C1 candidate, means to differentiate between an A or A plus. So tell them to look up at these words, these topics. Okay, now this one, best reviews, again, I can use the same template. So just use one template, tell them to use one template and try to do up reviews, do their reports, do their articles, all on that. Okay? Okay. For the better ones who feel that they can write better, or you know your students by now, right? So those who you think who can describe very well, who can write very interesting stories, tell them to go for question 3 in part 3. Why? Because this is the question where they can narrate, they can describe things, and they can score. These are for those who love writing stories, right? For these writers, we can pick and choose actually in our class. Okay, for this kind of writers, give them another template, tell them how to make their story interesting. This is a very basic template, okay, how you start, the conflict, the rising action, the falling action, the climax, before your falling action. Okay, then you may get students who are slightly weaker, but they love to write stories. Then teacher, I like to write story. Then say, okay, you like to write stories? All right, use this template. Give them the Cinderella template. Okay, tell them how Cinderella starts. This is a story that every child knows. Oh, it started with awful life of the evil sisters. Then we had rising action. You get invited to a ball, and then you go to a ball. Then suddenly a falling action. Oh no. So when you tell them, look at the flow of the story. There is up, there is down. And look at to the flow, and in the end here, you said the prince finds her happily ever after. Up to the child, they want a happy story, a sad story, or what they want. But you tell them, look at the story. It's not a straight line. It needs to have a climax. It needs to entertain. So that's where the child says, oh, okay, when I write a story, it has to be like that. This, of course, again, I told you this is the last minute push. This is just to help the student to see, when you read through your story, did you find excitement? Did you see that this was nice? Did you see the flow of the story? For those who love to write story. Okay, at the last minute, don't go around taking this template and say, okay, now you're going to all write stories for SPM. No, these are things for polishing for those students who are doing it. Right? These are just few examples, polishing for students who are doing it. All right. Now, what are the things that we can refer at this minute of SPM or this timing of SPM? What are the things that we can do on? Look at Unit 4 on page 52. I'm linking you back to your textbook. If you look at your Unit 4 on page 52, you will realize your opening paragraphs, the introductory paragraphs that I told you there, are already there for the child. Tell them, go back, look at those words, use the words. They can write parallel paragraphs to that for the weaker ones. Use those paragraphs, tell them, write a parallel. If something else comes out, like the first one is on technology. So if they want to write something else, just use that as the parallel paragraph so that they are able to write the introductory paragraphs. Okay, it is there on page 52. You don't have to hunt for it. Ask them to go there, look at that, help them out on that. Okay, for the below average and for the weaker ones, if you go back at page 52 on unit 4, you will find a few other paragraphs which they can memorize, which they can see what to do. All right. Okay, for the closure, okay, good conclusions, how they write good conclusion, that is already also given to you on unit 6 on page 78. Tell them to go back and refer. That's how you write a ending. So for the good ones, they look up there, they will be able to pick up the good words there, the good vocabulary there, and they will be able to do the ending of the essay. For the weaker ones, of course, they can go back there if they think they need to memorize, if they think they need to write parallel essays with that, parallel paragraphs with that, please let them do so. So everything is there in your books. What you need to make sure is you make sure the kid knows or the child knows where to refer back, what to see back, what are the words I need, refer back to syllabus. Give them the words, go through with them the words, tell them what they need, right? Okay, that's my last slide actually. So good luck to all the teachers, and we hope that with all this, these are all actually very last push for all our students. So we hope that we can help our students. Remember, it's not how many A's we want, or we don't want how many failures to passes. Remember that bell, remember the B's and the C's also we have to push. All right, we'll take a 5 minutes break before the next slot. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, teachers. Okay, I hope you have a cup of coffee with you. We are into our last slot for today. All right, so I would like to invite Puan Ji from Methodist Boys School to deliver a slot on our last piece of writing today. Okay, ahead to you, Jane.
All right, good afternoon, teachers. I hope you can hear me clearly. And I know it has been a long day and a lot of input from my teammates, Miss Premani and also Puan Sharon. So just bear with me for the last slot, which is on scoring SPM writing paper 1119/2. Okay, just before we start, I would like to give some general guidelines on certain things that are important for me, I feel. So I would like to share it with you. That is the first thing, we need to know and understand the assessment scales and the descriptors for each of the different parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3. Because we will be depending on those scales and descriptors when we are marking our students' scripts. And that will help us to also indirectly guide our students on what to write, how to write, and what to expect. Yeah. The next thing is the three parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3, which has consists of 3 questions. All these questions are balanced. When I say balanced, it means it covers the requirement of all the levels of proficiency, whether they are independent learners, whether they are average learners, or they are below average learners. Yeah. So in that manner, the questions that are posed for the exam are all fair to our candidates. So they are neither difficult, not all the 3 parts are difficult, and neither are they easy. All right. So it's a fair balance of the questions in all the 3 parts. All right. And finally, I would like to remind you that when we first got exposed to CEFR, it was always told we are now looking at what students can do. So in that same manner, when we assess the students, our focus is also on what the students can do. So in this manner, what the Form 5 students can do in their writing paper. And this will be the first batch. So yes, we will be, if to put it bluntly, groping in the dark, but I think it would be a learning experience for us the first year, right? So what I'll do is I'll go through each of the parts with some questions. One question, a sample script, and we will look at the scores that these candidates have achieved. Okay, so for part 1, which is the email, all right, as we know, the template will be provided for them. Yeah, so let's look at the question. Okay, and this is the question. You have received an email from your friend Amy, who has just moved to your hometown. And the question below, hi, the school holiday is finally here. Let's go for a picnic with our friends. Where shall we go and what shall we do there? What should we bring? I'll be waiting for your reply. Bye. Now, as you can see, I've highlighted 3 phrases. Where shall we go? What can we do? And what should we bring? Okay, this is because I want to highlight to you the task requirement. The candidates have to mention the place where they are going to go, what they are going to do there, and what they are supposed to bring on their trip for their picnic. Okay, so now let's look at the sample script. Okay, as you can see, I've identified the errors, okay, the omission, and I've also underlined the errors, all right? And you can see that most of this, all the errors here are major errors, yeah? Okay, now what about the words that I have highlighted? Okay, if you look at the yellow highlights, barbecue, fishing, and any more, that is to show that the candidate has answered the task of what they are going to do when they go for their picnic, right? Then the next one, to bring a thing for cooking, our clothes, and some of interesting thing for we. All right. For this, it is to highlight the candidate has actually mentioned what are the things they have to bring for the picnic. Now the highlights, those words that are highlighted in blue shows the connectors with, like, for. And the words in green, very excited, interesting, decide, are referring to the vocabulary this candidate has used. Okay, so generally in your mind now, teachers, you can sort of decide what scores you want to give to this candidate based on the errors that have been identified. Okay, but I would also like to share what has been given to this candidate. Okay, so the focus here will be the content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. We won't run away from these four focus, all right? And for this question, I've actually taken the descriptors for band 5, okay, the highest band for part 1 question, all right? All content is relevant to the task and target reader is fully informed, okay? And if you can see, I've actually highlighted all the keywords for each of the focus, okay? For content, all content is relevant and fully informed. That means the candidate must answer all the tasks that has been put forth in the question, all right? And if you see in this comments, these comments are based on the script, yeah? And this candidate did not answer all the parts. The candidate only answered 2 out of 3 parts of the question. That is what the candidate, what they want to do on the during the picnic and what they want to bring. So they have actually missed out on the location because one of the task requirement was to say where they were to go for their picnic. Where's the location? All right. And if you can see, because of this one part that has been omitted by the candidate, the score that this candidate got was only a 3. All right. So if you remember, part 1, all right, is the simplest of all the 3 parts. Okay. And this is also to help the students who are less proficient in the language. Okay. So what this student could do, the student could do something, all right, but it was not complete. Okay. So that's why this student got a mark of 3 was awarded for this candidate. All right. Now let's go to communicative achievement. Okay. The requirement under the descriptor is that the text communicates straightforward ideas using the conventions of the communicative task. Here, the task being an email. All right. So the comments given were, the ideas are simple, there is some closing, the appropriate closing, and the conventions of an email. Okay, if you look at the sample script. And the ideas given are appropriate. The candidate talks about going fishing, all right, on their picnic. So that those are appropriate ideas. So because the ideas are mostly, the communicative achievement, the descriptors are mostly, how would I say, mostly attempted. So this candidate is given a 4. Right. Now, how to improve, or how would you want to help this candidate to get a 5? All right. So here, the ideas must have more elaboration. Okay. So the communicative the ideas must be appropriate. The closing, the opening must have the conventions, more must be added for the opening and closing and for the content of the email. Now here the ideas were simple. So if the ideas had extra elaboration, then the candidate can actually score band 5. Now let's look at the organization. They say the descriptor says uses simple connectors with a limited number of cohesive devices. For this, the candidate received a band 5. However, this candidate has only used basic high frequency words. That means everyday vocab, such as and, like, or with. And the limited number of cohesive devices is not present in this sample. All right. So for that purpose, even one, the word limited number of cohesive devices covers at least one cohesive device used. Yeah. So because this candidate did not do so, the score that was given was only a 3. Okay. And finally, when we come to language, all right, basic vocabulary is used appropriately, uses simple grammatical forms with a good degree of control here, and errors are noticeable, but mind you, the meaning is still determined. That means the meaning can still come through when we read this script. So based on the script that we had earlier, let me go back to the script a while. Okay, the words are very simple. The vocabulary is very simple, yeah, very straightforward. Vocabulary is basic and relevant to the task. That means they have given the feelings, how they feel when they go for, when this candidate has suggested going for a picnic. They felt excited, all right, having a barbecue, all right. And then the simple grammatical forms are used. But because the grammar errors are noticeable, the errors are quite noticeable, so this candidate could not get a band 5, but it is just an average and got a band 3. Okay, so I hope with this guide descriptors, and if we look at the comments given, we can help our students on when we are giving the scores. All right, because even myself, I have this problem when I want to give scores to the students. Am I being too strict or am I being too lenient? This is always our predicament when we want to give marks, especially for this new format. Yeah, so I hope part 1 can help you, all right, with the descriptions that I have given. Okay, now let's go to part 2. Now, part 2 is the essay question. The candidates have to write 125 to 150 words. Okay, now this is the task requirement, the question. Your class has been discussing how they spend their money and how your teacher has asked you to write an essay about what you should spend your money on. So this is an essay. In your essay, you should write about what you would like to buy, reasons for your choice, and where do you usually buy this. Now, these 3 bullet points are highlighted because these are the task requirements. Okay, now write your essay using all the notes. So make sure the candidates, your students are told to use all the notes provided and not to choose and pick what they want to write. And give reasons for your point of view. Right. Let's look at the sample script. Okay, so here, if you can see, there are words that have been underlined, there are omission, and there are also wavy line. So these are all symbols we have used even with the old format. Right? So there are omissions of words. The candidate, the student, has left out certain words, right? And some of these words are wrongly used. The vocabulary is wrong. And the wavy line talks about minor errors. Here I wrote minor error because this candidate, if you look at the script, this was the only error that he or she made in the punctuation, because boutique has to be in capital. All right, so that's why I've put it as a minor error. If this candidate has written this, has come, how do I say, has actually had problems with punctuations throughout the script, then this error will become a major error. And instead of a wavy line, it will be a straight line. Okay. Now I've highlighted, unlike part 1, I've highlighted the task that this candidate has actually answered. So the candidate has mentioned that the candidate wants to buy a pair of shoes. That is the task, the first task requirement. So I've put there T1, right? And then the candidate has also given reasons why they have made that choice. That is, it is their favorite item. It makes them happy. And also it makes them look smart and handsome. And finally, it gives them confidence. Okay? So these are the second task requirements that this candidate has covered. And finally, the highlights that are in green are the third part, where they require to mention where this candidate can purchase their choice. Okay, so here the shoes can be bought at Sports Planet or at the boutique. These are the two places. So task 3. Okay, so if you see, this candidate has answered the requirements of all the 3 tasks. Now let's look at the scores. So look at the content mark that this candidate has received. This candidate was awarded 5, and this is the highest score because this candidate has answered all the parts correctly and it is relevant. Yeah. Now, if you look at the descriptors are for band 5. Where did I get these descriptors? They are all from the guideline that is being given to us, provided to us from the respectful authorities, the lembaga peperiksaan. So if they have, the descriptor for band 3, if you look at part 2, you will realize it is actually the same as band 5 for part 1. All right. So what does this reflect? This actually reflects that the level of challenge or the difficulty for part 1, the highest difficulty for part 1 is actually an average for part 2. Right? So what is band 5? The descriptors for band 5 in part 1 is only a band 3 in part 2. So that's why I have chosen to highlight these descriptors. Yeah. So again, the descriptors, I've highlighted the keywords for easy reference when we want to give the scores. The comments for this candidate, the scores for the script is, first one, the content, all the tasks has been answered, so they get a mark of 5. But unlike that, communicative achievement, the candidate was not able to get the highest score. The candidate only got a band 3. Okay, why? Because although the candidate is able to communicate straightforward ideas on the topic, all right, but it is not fully achieved. Yeah. Right. Why didn't I put the negative comments? Because again, let me go back to the our focus where CEFR looks at what students can do, right? Okay. Now, uses the conventions of the essay, all right? So there's the introduction and the closing and the body of the essay, all right? And at the beginning of the paragraph, the candidate actually writes, first thing, we must have a target. Although the word target may not be suitable, but we understand that what the candidate is trying to say, that we must know what we want to use the money for. All right? Okay. And then gives personal opinions. Okay? I hope you all can use my ideas of spend money. There is error, but the error is from the language perspective. But under the communicative perspective, communicative achievement, this candidate has successfully communicated what the ideas they have. Yeah? Let's go to the organization. Now, when it comes to organization, right, we must remember that the focus is on connectors and cohesive devices. All right. So here you'll see the candidate has actually used cohesive devices in the script. However, it was not successfully used. All right. So that makes a difference. Although the candidate has used it, but has not actually used it with full impact, then the scores will be affected. All right. Simple connectors, however, were used. All right. Words like and, like, and with. But it was not effective. All right. So because of this lack of effectiveness and successfulness, this candidate only was given a band 2 for organization. Right. And finally, we come to language. Right. Here, for the descriptor in band 3, it says uses basic vocabulary appropriately. Right. And this candidate was able to do so, was able to use words that are basic and was used appropriately. Yeah. Next, uses simple grammatical forms with a good degree of control. Right. But when in the command, we will see that the candidate, although is able to use grammatical forms well, but it is with some degree of control, not good degree of control. And finally, errors are noticeable, but meaning can still be determined. All right. So here the command for this script is noticeable error, but we are still able to understand. Meaning still comes true. All right. Okay. So I hope things are clear as we go through. We have covered part 1 and part 2. Okay. Now let's go to part 3. Okay, part 3 is the extended writing, and if you realize in extended writing we have 3 questions. That is question 3, question 4, question 5, which could cover a review, either a book review or a movie review like how Puan Sharon mentioned earlier, or we could have an article, or we could have a story. All right, and the candidates have a choice in part 3 what to choose. Okay, I have chosen for our session today to give a story. Okay, the question is on a story. So the story is your teacher has asked you to write a story for a school magazine. The story must have the title, A Dream Comes True. Your story should include a description of the dream and how the dream is achieved. So, description of the dream and how the dream is achieved is the task requirement. Okay, now let's look at the sample. And before I show you the sample, please don't worry because this is the whole script that has been written by the candidate. Now, for the purpose of identifying errors, I've broken up each paragraph for easy reference. So this is the first paragraph. Okay, as you can see, there are not many errors here. All right, there are some major errors and a minor error. Okay, vocabulary. Okay, most of the errors are for language. Okay, and next paragraph. Here we see that the errors are becoming more. All right, more errors are coming coming through. There is omission. Okay, candidate has left out some words, and we can see there are wavy lines, so minor errors, and also a few major errors. Okay. Third paragraph, here we have also a transpose. Yeah, I had dream weird. So it should have been I had a weird dream. Yeah. So you can see that the errors are becoming more compared to those errors in paragraph 1. Okay, and then the last paragraph, the fourth paragraph. Okay, now in part 3, the candidate needs to write the essay, and the number of words required is 200 to 250 words. Okay, so final product is this. Okay, I don't expect you to read, but just look through the errors and the identification of errors for the whole script. Just yeah, and if maybe you can actually relate to your own students that who write like this. All right, similar errors. Okay, now let's go to the scores and what this candidate was awarded for this question. Okay, now I have also taken descriptors for band 3 for this purpose, and you will realize that this band for part 3, the descriptors in band 3 is different than the descriptors in band 3 for part 2. Okay, why? Because it is more challenging, all right? And this is where the independent learners can actually try to score. It might be a bit more challenging for the less proficient students, all right? But that doesn't mean that they can't score. That doesn't mean that they can't answer these questions. But this is where the independent learners can actually portray their skills and write and try to score. They would definitely score, the independent learners will definitely score in part 1 and part 2. All right? So this would be challenging for them. All right, so let's look at the keywords in these descriptors. Okay, for content, there is some minor irrelevance. However, the target reader is on the whole informed. That means the questions are still answered. Each of the task requirements are answered for the content. And this candidate was able to do so. All right, the candidate was able to actually talk about, let me go back to the question in case you, description, give a description of the dream and how this dream was achieved. Okay, right. So this candidate was awarded a band 5 for content. But that doesn't mean that all the other focus, this candidate would receive a band 5 also. All right. We have to see what the candidate can do. All right. It's easy for the candidate to answer the questions because they have been put in bullet points. All right. But when it comes to communicative achievement, organization, and language, all right, the candidate has to be is left on their own to go back to how proficient they are to answer this question effectively. Right? So if when we look at communicative achievement, all right, the candidate has to use the conventions of the communicative task. So if it was an article, the candidate would have a different requirement compared to the story. All right, conventions of a story has to have personal feelings written. All right, and for the story, the candidate has to give their own point of view. Okay? And also be able to communicate straightforward ideas appropriately. this candidate was able to do so, but not in a very effective way. All right. So because of that, this candidate only achieved a band 2. All right. Now, if we look at this, why wasn't the candidate able to achieve a higher band and was only given a band 2? Now, the conventions of the communicative task was present, but was it able to hold the reader's attention? I think it was not as effective or successful. All right. So because of that, the candidate was brought down to a band 2. Yeah. Next, let's go to organization. Now, again, I would repeat that when it comes to organization, they are looking at cohesive devices and connectors, right? And whether the whole piece of writing is coherent. That means the idea flows through smoothly. Yeah. So here, the script was generally well organized, all right, but events are presented in sequence, okay, and the connectors and linkers were there, cohesive devices were there, but were not used correctly. So this is where the candidate was not able to get, or was the reason why this candidate could not get a higher score, right? So for this organization, the candidate was only given a band 2. Yeah. And finally, we go to language. Okay. Now, as you can see, basic vocabulary is used appropriately. Simple grammatical forms with a good degree of control. For question 3, a good degree of control is required. And finally, errors are noticeable, meaning errors will be there, but meaning can still be determined. Okay. So what are the comments given for this candidate? Common errors are used. All right. Common vocabulary is used, but there are errors. All right. The less common words are used. That means the candidate is trying to use more challenging words, all right, less common words, but it was not used effectively. All right. Simple grammatical forms are there, but they are not consistent. All right. The candidate is not able to be consistent where the grammatical forms are successfully used from the beginning till the end of the script. Right? And I again go back to the errors, to the passage. Now, errors are noticeable. Okay? And you can see that sometimes meaning is affected also. If you look at paragraph 3, the competitions doesn't kill my time. So there, the idea it breaks down. All right? It is not straightforward, and meaning doesn't really come through. We now have to try to understand what the candidate is trying to tell us. So this will definitely affect the marks or the score that we want to give our candidate. And so you see, although for content, the candidate got the highest score, but when it comes to communicative achievement, organization, and language, this candidate was below average because they only were able to get a score of 2 for each of the focus. So teachers, I hope that what I have shared with you today, you can actually picture your students in these categories, all right, for part 1, part 2, and part 3. And it will help you on how to give the right marks for your candidates. We don't want to rob our students of their marks. At the same time, we also don't want to jeopardize by giving generously to those less proficient students and rob the marks for the independent students. All right. So with that, I have come to the end of my presentation. All right. If there are questions, I guess you can put it in the chat box, right? And we will try to answer um, as best as possible. And with that, I thank you and I wish you all the best for your students and for you also, teachers, to help your students. I know we are all trying our best. And this is our little contribution to help you teachers, to help your students. So I will pass it back to Puan Melissa. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Jane, for such an insight of the last slot of our writing component. Okay, before that, please bear in mind, teachers, ladies and gentlemen, that these are only suggestions by our JUs according to their own experience with their own students. And yes, I do know that this year, not this year, it's actually last year, but this SPM 2021 is the first time that the students or we teachers are going to try out the new format, all the 4 components. Okay, so take whatever is good for your students, okay, adapt and adopt. All right, and yes, according to Jane, we will try to answer inside the chat box, and the time has shown that I think it's already 4:05. All right, so good timing. Thank you, my JUs. Thank you, Premani. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Jane. And thank you to Puan Nora, Puan Parimala, Mr. Roger, Mr. Chandra Morgan, and also Puan Jen from Barat Daya. Sorry. Okay, and I would like to thank Penang Digital Movers for streaming it live from their YouTube channel. All right, do not forget tomorrow we have another date, okay, with another 2 more JUs that will be presenting on speaking itself. So before we go off, I would like to actually give you the scan code for your attendance link for today. All right, so it will be on the screen in a while. Just okay, I think it's on the screen now. Yeah. All right, so you can scan the code and fill in the forms, all right, and we will include it into the SPL KPM for you. So I will let that scan code be there for some time so that you have time to scan. All right, for tomorrow's session, okay, inside the official letter, yes, it was stated that 1 Form 4 teachers and 1 Form 5 teacher. But since that we are streaming live from YouTube, so gather all your Form 4 teachers, gather all your Form 5 teachers to be with us, okay? All right, this is a good insight, a good actually general knowledge of writing and also speaking for tomorrow. So tomorrow, don't forget, same time, and you can scan the code from the same, actually I have 2 posters that are going around. All right, I'll be posting it also inside our SPM focus group. If you are not there, you can just join in our Telegram group, okay? All right, what else? Okay, I think, is that okay with the scan code? The link is okay? Puan Nora, can you check? Yeah. All right. So I'm so happy. Actually, we have 207 viewers for today. Okay. So we hope for more tomorrow. Okay. All right. So I think that's all from us. Streaming live from PKG Kepala Batas, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you, teachers. Have a nice evening, and bye.